No, Laurel. No, Yanny. No, Laurel. No, Yanny. No, Laurel. Yanny. Laurel. I'm one of the few people who has heard it both ways, and honestly, I am so confused. Which is it supposed to be? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that looks to answer exactly those. I'm your host, Rebecca Felgate, and today I'm asking once and for all, is it Laurel or is it Yanny? Now, you might be surprised to know there is actually an answer here. Okay, I'm about to take a listen right now and tell you what I hear today. To me, right now, it sounds like this. Yanny! Right now it sounds like Yanny to me, so this morning it sounded like Laurel. Honestly, I'm so confused. But why? On the 16th of May 2018, the internet was divided once again in this season's The Dress. People were confronted with an audio recording, and it turns out that people either hear Laurel or they hear Yanny. How can this be? The two words at face value sound so different. As the original audio recording skyrocketed to over 20 million listens in a day, people were tweeting out whether or not they were Team Laurel or Team Yanny, but it turns out the internet couldn't be divided into just two teams, depending on what time of day it was, what environment people were listening in, and most importantly, at what frequency they heard the recording. Actually, it's possible to hear both. So, once again, I've been able to hear it both ways. First I heard Yanny, then Laurel, then Yanny, then Laurel, and now Yanny. It turns out that actually it isn't a simple heads or tails answer. Whether or not you hear Laurel or Yanny depends on what frequencies your brain is picking out. It also has to do with the poor quality recording of the original audio clip and the frequency ranges of the headphones or speakers you're listening to the clip on. So, let's talk about the original recording. As we mentioned, it's pretty bad. Brad Story, a professor of speech, language, hearing and sciences at the University of Arizona, said the low quality recording creates enough ambiguity in the acoustic features that some listeners may be led towards the Yanny perception. With a high quality recording, and if all listeners were listening with the same device, there may not be any confusion. But why, guys? If we're all listening to the same original low quality recording, do some of us hear different things? Well, it all depends on what frequencies our ears can pick up. Older people tend to be able to mainly hear lower frequencies, but younger people are still able to hear higher frequencies. A bit of a generalization here, but older people are more likely to hear Laurel and the younger are likely to hear Yanny. But of course, a lot of people of all ages have heard the recording both ways. It is also a psychological phenomenon. The way we hear things is influenced by your subconscious brain. As the original recording is terrible, our brains are filling in some of the gaps to what we think we ought to be hearing. On top of that, the way we hear sound is totally dependent on our recent experiences with it. If you were just listening to something bassy, it can reduce your bass sensitivity, making you more sensitive to higher frequencies. This temporarily shifts the goalposts of your hearing. The same goes for listening to high-pitched sounds. After that, your ears may be more sensitive to lower pitches, which explains why some people might hear Laurel one minute, then Yanny the next. I, for one, am happy there is a scientific explanation, as prior to that, I was just gonna straight up say it was some kind of voodoo magic. Also, quick note, drinking alcohol can also affect the way you hear things too. While a lot of people have heard it both ways, some have yet to switch camp. Interestingly though, the New York Times have developed a tool that allows for the listener to hear both Laurel and Yanny by sliding up and down a frequency scale. Here, theoretically, everyone should be able to hear both at whatever frequency it takes. Once again, it all goes back to that terrible audio recording. If you look at a spectrogram of the original recording, you can see that it contains both high and low frequencies. The way the New York Times slider works is by cutting out the low frequencies on one end and the high on the other. Audio analysts across the internet have recorded themselves both saying Laurel and Yanny, and surprisingly, both words have similar primary acoustic features: high, low, high. At first, these two words might not seem similar, but it turns out they actually are. So, what is it, Laurel or Yanny? Here comes the answer. It's Laurel. The whole debate started when freshman student Katie Hetzel from Flowery Branch High School in Georgia looked up the pronunciation for Laurel on vocabulary.com. The only thing is, when she played the terrible quality recording, she heard Yanny. As we know, depending on what frequency our brains are trained to hear at, both can be heard in the poor quality recording. This is where it began. She then asked her classmates what they thought, and they all reported mixed things. She then posted it on her Instagram story. A senior at the school, Fernando Castro, republished it on his story and ran a poll. Then, a friend of his put it on Reddit. And that, my friends, is how a viral debate is born. It was then picked up by YouTuber Chloe Feldman, who has over 200,000 followers on Twitter. And the rest, as they say, is history. Okay, I'm gonna listen to it one more time and see if it's changed for me right over the course of this video.
Laurel.
Yes!
Laurel.
It's Laurel for me now.
Laurel.
This is insane. So, is it Laurel or Yanny? It's Laurel, but nobody can blame you for hearing Yanny because it's kind of hidden in the audio clip. I think the main thing to take away here isn't the answer, but the amazing phenomenon that is psychoacoustics. Our brains are incredible things, and it goes to show that people don't always hear or think in the same way, but given a little patience and understanding, it is possible to hear each other out. So that is one question answered for you. What did you guys hear, Laurel or Yanny, or both? Let me know in the comments section down below. Also, do hit that thumbs up button if you like our content. I'm your host, Rebecca Felgate. I'll catch you in the next video.